This is one of the most controversial things I tell men in therapy. Listen carefully. Some men are not staying married because they are in love. They are staying married because they are afraid of being called the bad guy, afraid of losing half their assets, afraid of losing access to their children, afraid of what their church will say, afraid of what their family will say, afraid of what social media will say. And that fear is keeping some men in marriages that are destroying them from the inside out. I know this is controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. If your marriage is draining you physically, financially, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, divorce is not automatically a failure. In some cases, it is the first healthy decision you have made in years. I'm Emma, and as a relationship coach and therapist, I've spoken to men who were having panic attacks in their own driveway before walking into their house. Men who sat in their car for 30 minutes after work because they could not bear another night of criticism, contempt, yelling, manipulation, or emotional warfare. Men who were paying every bill, carrying every responsibility, trying to keep the family together, or being constantly told they were never enough. And society still looked at them and said, be a man and make it work. No, sometimes being a man means admitting that the relationship is no longer healthy. Let me be very direct. A lot of men have been taught that a good husband never leaves, but nobody tells men that a good husband is also a human being. He has a nervous system. He has mental health. He has emotional limits. He has a future, and he has a right to live in peace. I'm not talking about leaving because your wife forgot your birthday. I'm not talking about leaving because marriage got boring for 6 months. I'm talking about marriages where there is constant disrespect, humiliation, manipulation, false accusations, emotional abuse, financial exploitation, chronic hostility, or complete emotional abandonment. Imagine this. A man in Texas works 55 hours a week. He pays the mortgage, the car payment, the insurance, the groceries, and the children's expenses. He comes home exhausted, and every evening becomes an interrogation. Why are you late? You didn't care about this family. My friend's husband does more. You're a failure. He tries counseling. He tries date nights. He tries communicating. He tries praying. He tries changing himself. 3 years later, he is on blood pressure medication, barely sleeping, and feeling like a stranger in his own home. Tell me honestly, is staying in that marriage automatically the noble choice? Or has he simply become a prisoner of public opinion? Here is another example that many Americans will recognize. A man in California is constantly threatened with divorce whenever there is conflict. Every disagreement becomes a weapon. Every boundary becomes abuse. Every attempt to defend himself becomes toxic masculinity. He starts walking on eggshells. He stops expressing his feelings. He stops inviting friends over. He stops laughing. He stops being himself. And one day he realizes something terrifying. He is no longer living. He is surviving. Men, hear me carefully. Peace is not a luxury. Peace is a life requirement. You cannot pour into your children when you are emotionally empty. You cannot lead a family when you are mentally broken. You cannot build a future while living in constant stress and conflict. And let me say something that will upset a lot of people. Not every divorced man is a villain. Some divorced men spent years trying to save the marriage, while their partner spent years refusing accountability. Some divorced men begged for communication. Some begged for counseling. Some begged for respect. Some begged for partnership. And eventually they stopped begging. Now, I need to address the guilt, because many men stay because they think, what if things change? That hope keeps millions of people trapped. Hope is beautiful, but hope is not a strategy. You cannot build a healthy marriage on potential. You build it on consistent behavior. If you have been trying to fix the same destructive patterns for 5, 7, or 10 years, and the other person is not genuinely participating in the healing process, you are not preserving the marriage anymore. You are sacrificing yourself to it. And let me give you a sentence I want you to remember for the rest of your life. Staying in a toxic marriage to avoid being judged is like staying in a burning house because you're worried about what the neighbors will think. Yes, people may talk. Some will call you selfish. Some will say you gave up. Some will say a real man would have stayed. But those people are not living your life. They are not feeling your anxiety. They are not carrying your financial burden. They are not lying awake at 2 a.m. wondering why the person beside you feels like an enemy. I have seen men rebuild their lives after divorce. Not instantly, not painlessly, but powerfully. I have seen fathers become more emotionally present with their children. I have seen men recover from depression. I have seen men regain their confidence, their health, their faith, their purpose, and their peace. One man told me something I will never forget. He said, "Ava, the day after my divorce was finalized, I sat alone in my apartment and cried, not because I lost my marriage, but because, for the first time in years, I could breathe." That is not the language of a man who escaped responsibility. That is the language of a man who escaped chronic emotional suffocation. Now, let me be responsible and say this. Divorce should never be impulsive. If there is safety, mutual respect, accountability, and genuine effort from both sides, fight for your marriage. Absolutely fight for it. But if the marriage has become a place of ongoing destruction, and every attempt at repair has been met with denial, contempt, manipulation, or refusal to change, then leaving is not weakness. It is wisdom. Men, your life matters too. Your mental health matters too. Your peace matters too. Your future matters too. And if you're in a marriage that is slowly destroying your body, draining your finances, crushing your spirit, isolating you from who you are, and turning your home into a battlefield, I want you to understand something clearly. Divorce is not always the worst thing that can happen to a man. Sometimes the worst thing is staying until there is nothing left of him. If this message spoke to you, type peace in the comments. And if you know a man who is silently suffering in an unhealthy marriage, share this video with him. Because one honest conversation can save a life. Divorce is not always the worst thing that can happen to a man. Sometimes the worst thing is staying until there is nothing left of him. If this message spoke to you, type peace in the comments. And if you know a man who is silently suffering in an unhealthy marriage, share this video with him, because one honest conversation can save a life.